Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Purple Charm Experience podcast, where I am your host, Charmyra E. Fleming, but you can call me mine. Today, I have a wonderful special guest with me. She is a celebrated author and literary activist with a degree in politics and economics, and she's very passionate about social issues, health, ecology, and the environment. She she favors ethnic fiction over nonfiction. She writes novels and short stories and a version of flash fiction that she calls quick fic. And her children's books have earned her acclaim, and her young adult series is very well received. Everyone, I would like to welcome to the Purple Charm Experience podcast, JC Moore. Hi, JC. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. So, as I like to kick it off, one of the things that I, try to promote on the podcast and through my writing is it's kind of a double meaning of my name, which means motivate, aspire, inspire. So everything that I do, I try to do something that motivates at least one person to aspire to their greatness and inspire someone, if not many, along the way. And I just love what you're doing with your writing because I feel like it embodies everything that I stand for and what my brand stands for in terms of what my is. So if you don't mind, please share with my listening audience a little bit about yourself, a little bit more about yourself and, what writing means to you.
Thank you so much, Maya. For me, writing is just an extension of everything I do. It's not so much something that's over there. Mm-hmm. I don't always get to do it in a literal sense of writing, putting pen or fingers to the keyboard, because of what's happened in the world right now, where we think we're post-pandemic, but I don't really feel that we're at that point. How it's changed everything in terms of your day-to-day workings. But I write all the time. I'm writing in my mind. I'm continually writing a story, looking at things and figuring out, what does that mean? There's meaning to everything. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? What would that look like in a story? How can I translate this tragedy or this triumph into something that's consumable for others? Right. So I'm constantly writing. I'm working right now on getting my work out the door. Mm-hmm. That I find hard because when I'm done with it, the minutia of the edits, the corrections and things like that seem to bog me down. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because there's something new calling my name, and I'm more interested in that than the minutia of conclusions. So the Light Bearing the Darkness series is the first installment is finished. The editor did the edits. She kicked it back. That's some of the changes. And I become stagnated. It's just hard to get it back out, which I will do soon. But I started on a new project, right?
Wow. What's the new project about?
New project called, it's called Lady. And it's based on a picture that I saw of a child with arm cut off.
Oh, wow.
And it had to do with slavery and subjugation and things of that nature. And you look at this as the King Leopold Ghost, that book that talked about it, how they were going around, how do you have a basket full of people's hands? Mm-hmm. And so it makes you think about what does that look like for the ancestors of these people? And what does it look like for the ancestors of the victimizers? The victims we know, the victimizer. Right. So I started a story, and we have a lot of gentrification going on here in Metro Atlanta. And I said, what if we tormented, right, someone who's moving into a house that had been owned by a Black person? And what if you have inside of a wall this doll, this little brown doll that becomes somewhat animated and torments the Caucasian person in the story, who's feeling like, I didn't do it.
Right.
Someone's hand, but they don't realize that they are still part of that.
The lineage. They're part of the lineage of that hardship, that hard time, that pain, regardless of whether or not they had anything to do with it. It's part of their past. Wow.
Exactly. And Dr. Joy DeGruy, I think she's married again, so I always say Dr. Joy DeGruy Leary, but that's no longer her surname. But Dr. Joy, the post-traumatic slave syndrome, Dr. Joy, she had demonstrated in one of her talks that you could buy the book Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, that trauma like that comes through the bloodline. And the experiment was where you have, let's say, a mouse or a rat. Then if you give it a scent, it will start to quiver without the shock. Okay, that's conditioning. That's kind of expected. The children of these lab animals, you give them a scent, no shock, and they still quiver. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. So we have not just the slavery, but the post-slavery to the right now slavery. So when we look at some of our brothers and sisters and we say, why are they doing this? Why can't they get it together? Well, let's look at this line. You see, so now that there's a pandemic and that everyone is supposedly, in a syndrome and everyone's on mental health watch, they've come out with research that talks about it. They're not talking about it the same way Dr. Joy did. Because she was saying, hey, you putting all the stress on Black people. And now, look, so they're saying, oh, there's post-traumatic stress syndrome, and we're all under all this stress. So what are we under? Because we're under our regular Black people stress, and on top of it, the COVID stress.
Right.
So my story, Lady Doll, that's the working title, is showing that, hey, it's in your bloodline too. You are a tormentor.
Wow.
You are a tormentor, right? Because because you could say, hey, cut off someone's hand. But or they used to also cut off the scalp of the native people in this country. Right. You could say that, but you know how gruesome that is to actually do that? How you're doing that? Not just once.
But over and over again.
So, so that's why I'm writing that.
Wow, that's powerful. How do you navigate the emotional connection to a story like that? Because I would imagine that writing a story like that, for me, I would think that it would take a lot of you emotionally to think about the fact of how the impact of telling that story from such a you have to be in a vulnerable place because you're telling it from the victim's perspective and you're telling it from the ancestors all the way up. Like, how do you maintain your emotional peace and be able to keep it straight so you can tell it without,
falling apart?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, for this particular story, the Lady Doll story, I'm not really telling it from the perspective of the victim. I'm from the perspective of the victimizer. So I just keep it in that I used to write. I use Scribner. I'm not sure if you use that.
Yes, I do.
Okay, excellent. Another connection. I keep pictures. You can put pictures in. So I have a picture of that child without the hand and arm, of the little doll, and those things there to keep me angry. So that when I'm harming him, and I'm doing things to him, I'm saying, I don't feel sorry for you. Look at this.
Right. Right.
This is before prosthesis that you could put on the child's hand and arm. How are you supposed to do anything?
Right.
So I have another, it's another theme that I've used in another story, which is a screenplay story. Again, I think we focus on the victim, and that's easy to me. That's low-hanging fruit. Easy to see harmed.
Right.
That's easy. But what about the person who's harming you? What's going on in their head?
Right.
What's going on? I mean, you can see that.
And how are you able to, because I know for me, like, you have to get into the mindset of the person that's doing the victimizing, and you have to, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like, even like when I'm writing, because I write romance, like sometimes I, like in the first book, I wrote from the perspective of both of the characters, the male and the female. And, I don't want to say that I think I'm a man, but getting in the mind and the psyche of that person and thinking as if you are that person, can take you to a place. Do you find that you have to go, like, because you have the doll, you have to go to a dark place to be able to write something so powerful?
Well, for me, I think I try to be logical. Like, what would they do based on what? Because I can never know, even when you stay within your own gender and age group, you don't really ever understand people's actions.
That's true.
You're always kind of saying, I think you're doing this because you're hurt. I think you're doing this because you're hungry or because you're greedy. But why is someone greedy?
Right.
Why do you eat more than what you need? Why is it necessary for you to have the whole pie and keep others from having any pie?
Right.
Why is it when you already have more money than you could possibly use in your lifetime, the lifetime of your children, and any other children you could think of beyond that, is it still necessary for you to keep your heel on the neck of the Africans, of the Central and South Americans, of the Native Americans? Why is that necessary?
Right.
For you to come in and remove all of these people from the land, for you with the land that you're not even going to use yet. So you can never get into that mindset because it's not your mind.
Right.
But you can find people who've done it and see how they were able to both espouse, like we just had the July 4th in this.
Oh, that was me. Sorry.
Where you could espouse the July 4th tenants. At the same time, all of those men had slaves and things of that nature. Right. And then they said George Washington chased his wife's slave across the country, something crazy like that. Right. So these historical things. So you could see you have a person who seems like they're very this pattern. But meanwhile, they have cognitive dissonance in their head because they don't think of you the same as they think of their wife. And they don't think of their wife the same as they think of another man. So it's this hierarchy it's just like prison. People have totally accepted putting other humans into cages, locking up humans for 30, 40 life.
Yeah.
They've totally accepted strapping someone into an electric chair, putting something on them and running current through them, decapitating them, putting poison in them. And they say this is justice. But it's just us. But don't let my eggs come from a chicken that was caged.
Wow. Boom. I agree. I mean, wow.
So I don't think we have to get into their mind. We can look at their actions.
Right.
And then say, is this believable for anyone, we draw it in a way that's believable. And does it further my story where we can continue with that character, development?
Yeah. Wow. Where do you, let me see.
Let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go right
What
ahead.
made you choose romance as your primary genre?
I think because I'm a hopeless romantic. I think I always, and to be quite honest, I don't read a lot of romance novels, but I've always written like poetry whenever I had a crush or whatnot. And so when I moved from Boston to Maryland 4 years ago, I started writing this story, The Violet Rose, as a tribute to Prince, which is my favorite musical artist. And
he's mine too.
Is he really? I love Prince.
Call my name.
One of my favorite tracks. That's one of my favorite. What's your favorite track?
Well, I probably Doves Cry, and also I'm trying to think it's a duet. I'm trying to think of the name.
With who? With
Rosie.
Oh, so Graffiti Bridge era?
No, Nothing Compares to You.
Okay. Yeah. Now.
And yours is?
If I Was Your Girlfriend is probably my all-time favorite because I always go back to that song and play it whenever I want to listen to Prince. That's the first song that I play. And then I'll play at least 3 songs off of the 1999 album. Yeah. And then I'll go to the For You album. There's 2 or 3 tracks on that one that I love. And then I'll come up to the more recent stuff.
I heard something on the radio the other day that I know was his work. So I don't know what they're doing with his estate, but
it's a mixed bag for me because on the one hand, I'm happy that his stuff is still getting out there and people are getting to experience, but I don't like the way it's coming out because I know that he would not be happy with it.
If he wanted it out, it'd been out.
Exactly.
If it's not out, then all we have is all we get.
Exactly. And that's kind of how I feel. Like I don't like that a lot of the stuff that they're doing, but that's just me.
It is, it's out of our hands.
Yeah, and I keep my
early on, they put one of his tracks to like a credit card commercial or something like that.
And you see
they shut it down.
Yep. Capital One, I think it was, and they took it down because, and I think it was Purple Rain. It might have been Purple Rain on one of those tracks off the Purple Rain album. Snatched it right down.
Sounds like he would never.
Exactly. He would even. I look, JC. I'm a trained makeup artist. I got my little certificate. And I love makeup, and I was not happy when one of the major makeup companies, I think it was I can't think of the name of it, but one of the major makeup companies put out a line of makeup with his likeness, and one of the girls that was close to him right before he passed, that was a model, was doing the modeling for it, and I was so upset. One of my family members was like, "Oh, are you gonna get the makeup?" I said, "No,
no support in that."
Nope, because he wouldn't have approved of that if he was still here. No, I will not wear it.
And I think that's the attitude I take with everything, is that there are things that are African, Afrocentric, that are ours, that we don't know are ours, and it's been taken.
Right.
And it's been fed back to us, and we don't know.
Right.
That's what's happened. It's like buying kent cloth at a department store.
Right. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I would love to get your take, because this was one of the things that was very important to me when I began writing, is making sure that I maintain ownership of my work. And that's one of the reasons why I self-published, and other reasons because no traditional publisher was willing to put out my work. So I had to do it myself.
Okay.
But I always looked at Prince as a model in terms of making sure that you have ownership. And I remember him, even though he had to fight like tooth and nails all those years with Warner Brothers and other, for the rights of his work, that was something that kept coming back in my mind when I put out the Violet Roses, man, on your stuff, and even with all the other books. How do you feel about that? And I know, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about being a literary activist, because I think that also plays into this too, to that conversation. And I want the listeners to understand what it means to us as authors to maintain that ownership of our creativity and what we produce, because so often, I think the traditional publishers might put the money into your face, or the opportunities in your face, but people lose themselves in that because they become slaves to that, to that publisher.
It definitely influences you. But I think one of the things, if I'm not mistaken, that Prince said was, don't sign with them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sign with them. If you have to sign with anyone, sign with someone else
Mm-hmm.
who looks like you. And I agree. I think part of the challenge that's happening right now is there are a lot more self-published, I believe, than there are traditionally published people.
That's true.
I think it's also, why are you writing?
Right.
If you're writing, you want that to be a primary source of income, then you might have to go the traditional route, because they have deeper pockets, they have the distribution channels. I believe that will change, and I think we can change that.
Mm-hmm.
Black women like to read. Black women support the whole industry.
Right.
The question to me isn't so much, are you published traditionally, or are you published, self-published, or one of those hybrids? But are you able to get people to read your work? Because if I like your book, like this is a book I picked up on my bookshelf. My friend Stephanie has a whole series, Extraordinary African American Women, right?
Mm.
She has a publishing company. She publishes it. If you like this book, are you looking to see the spine who published it? If I say, oh my God, Maya, you have to read this book, you don't say, well, did Simon Schuster publish it? I ain't reading it otherwise. No one does that.
Right, right.
So are you putting out a good quality product?
Right.
Right. This one was more traditionally published.
Mm-hmm.
I met him, I met Remy
mm-hmm.
in the airport, right?
Yes.
I thought he was Jermaine Griggs. Just, just randomly picking up men in the airport. And it doesn't matter. If I say his book is good, it doesn't matter who did it. You can't tell. Both of these are hardcover,
Right.
And I mean, this is a publishing house, so it's not
mm-hmm.
that stuff isn't published. But I mean, in terms of it being one of the old,
the big publishing.
So I think that in terms of your controlling, I want to be able to control what I write, what my thoughts are, what my attitudes are. I don't want to have to go along with what everyone is saying now.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone's saying green people, you better not talk bad about green people, or three-headed people, I better not see you saying anything about them. Then now, if you really don't like green people, or if you can't take looking at those three heads,
mm-hmm.
you are now censored, self-censored.
Right, right.
Because they're saying they don't want to do that. Or they're saying they're only going to publish the three-headed green people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's no longer, it's kind of morphing over to my activism. It's no longer the social point that you're trying to make. They want, very generic, they want to kind of say, this is what we're talking about. This is what's important to everyone.
Right.
And they constantly, what's important to us today? Well, turn on the news, they're going to tell you. Open
Right.
the newspaper, they'll tell you. Know what's important to you.
Right.
A different voice. What's important to your ethnic group or your gender or the children. It's what they say. So if they say vaccines are good, you better say it. If they say it's bad, you better say it's bad. If they say the kids should have it, you better say the kids have it. You better not say anything because they'll shut you down. It's a gang. It's
Right.
no longer any diversity in thought. It's a gang.
Right.
And if he's saying something that I disagree, first of all, we're all supposed to be the same. So if he says something I don't agree with, then we're supposed to squash him, and either he's going to conform and be the same, or we're going to mute him and censor him where he may as well does not exist.
Right.
You see, and that's not what we need. So they'll take the most extreme case and they'll say, this is why you shouldn't have these types of freedoms.
Right. And to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, I recently, I think either it might have been last year, I finally felt like, oh, well, let me submit one of my books to one of the published, the romance publishing companies. And I submitted it and they told me that, oh, it's a great story, but this is what our readers are reading.
That's what I'm saying.
And this is what we want you to write like, and we don't like the fact that your characters were in other relationships and they found love together. I mean, in each other. We want them to have a love at first sight kind of thing.
Formula.
Yeah. And that's not me.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Right.
Because whenever you look at a story that becomes very successful, it's usually different.
You're right.
It's just what they told them not to do.
Right.
But they did anyway.
Right. Right.
You do you. And have the faith and courage to continue to do you. Right. And work on marketing and work on some other things. But you do you. Don't let, because then you become a slave. And right. you're going to have to write that on your cheek too.
Exactly. I have to be just like that. And, and one of the things that I always say this, and I don't care if I have maybe one or two people reading my book, every person that's, that I've been fortunate enough to have read my books have said that they love my books because of the uniqueness, because it's not like every other romance novel that they've written, that's been written or that they've read, and then they feel like my characters are relatable. One lady said, "Oh my God, I feel like I know these people," or and I always try to write from a place that feels like how I view love. I always like to see the goodness in relationships, even though there are ups and downs in a relationship. I'm gonna tell you about it. These people, like when I write about my characters, they may be successful. I always write about, African Americans that are successful, that they've gone to HBCUs. I love doing that. I love talking about some of the companies that I buy we talked about Black businesses, supporting Black businesses. I always write about the Black businesses that I support in my books, because as a way to give people an opportunity to find out about these companies. I've had people say, you talked about this candle. Is that true? Is that real? Yes, you can actually go buy that candle. Yep. And so that's what I like to do. And I love showing that, although finding love and being in love and having romance can be messy at times, and these people can maybe super professional, super successful, they come with some drama and some mess, and it does get messy in there. But on the other side, you can find love. And I want to tell those stories the way I see them. I know friends who've been through stuff, even though I don't write about my friends, but you see people that go through things in life. And it's not some cookie cutter I'm dating a billionaire, and we saw each other and we fell in love because I saw him come across the street. He walked across the street and I fell fast in love with him. It's not like that. And I don't write like that. And I love when people say, thank you for that, because I felt like I was right in the middle of their relationship, seeing what was going on.
I agree. I think that what sums it up is this woman I know is an excellent speaker. She said that she's a businesswoman. She said she was on a board of directors with primarily white males, Caucasian males. And she told them, did you ask me to be on this board to give you back your point of view? Or did you ask me to be on the board to give you my point of view? Are you just looking to everyone to be in agreement with whatever you are already planning? Or are you really looking for a different perspective?
Right.
So some of these companies, in this case, the publishing company that's romance, the romance genre, they already know what they want. They don't really want anything.
Right. Right.
And if they don't look like you, if they don't have any sensibilities, or if they could look like you, but be totally, off from what we experience day to day. Right?
Yeah.
Then you will not get what you want. Even if they sign you, you will not find happiness, because they'll constantly be trying to nudge you, push you, corral you back to that genre trope.
Yes. Like one of the things I don't like writing about is what they call like hood romance stories.
Because you're Black, aren't you supposed to have some hood?
Yeah, that's what they think, and that's not true. That's not
what they think. That's what they want. So they know that people aren't like that generally.
Right.
But they want to find the lowest form when it comes to you and I.
Right.
Not looking. See, what you just said is the type of things I write. What you just said, making sure you have a good family, strong Black people, educated Black people, showcasing our best in terms of education and sciences and whatever. That is not what they're about. You can look at the television and see that.
Exactly.
They want you to be a gangster. They want so when they shoot the kids dead in the street, people's mind will always go to what did they do to deserve it?
Right.
Not the horror of it. The first thing they want to know is, what did he do? Right.
And they don't see us. They don't see us as.
And we feed into that as authors, as screenwriters, and sometimes as consumers. When we continue to allow that, and we might complain about it.
Yes.
To each other, but we're still consuming it.
We still consume it, and then we, in a sense, promote it and embrace it. I think about some of these TV shows that's on right now, and it's like it's celebrated,
Turn it off. You've got to turn it off.
Right.
You've got to turn it off, and that's the only thing you can do is turn it off.
Right.
And what we have to do is we have to begin to figure out how to get, like your books and my book, some of these other we were discussing, whether they are traditionally published or not, doesn't necessarily mean they're getting pushed the way they should, but how to showcase these Black authors who are writing more robustly.
Right. And there's some really, really great work out here. I mean, I'm looking at your work, your body of work, Lynn High's body of work, and I mean, if it had not been, and I have to give a shout out to the Black Writers Collective, because if it wasn't for the collective, I would not have met you two. I would not have met any of the other authors that's within that group. And it's a phenomenal, group of individuals who are doing amazing things. And I am just so blessed and grateful that I don't even know how I stumbled upon it that particular day. It was a Saturday, and I don't know what I was doing, but I stumbled upon it, and I couldn't get in when I initially tried to get in, because it was like, well, you have to have a membership. And I was like, forget it. I'm just going to buy a membership because I need to connect with people, and I want to connect with people to look like me. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
Tia has done a great job.
Yes,
also,
she has.
I want to shout out to Carol Holland for her work. This is one of her books, The Bliss. of the grade, as you can see
Yes.
here, right?
That's amazing. That's an amazing
And
color.
White Minority is another one. So we have a lot of our books here,
Mm-hmm.
you know, from the collective.
Yes.
That I wanted to kind of shout out. And what I do is I buy everybody's book.
I buy everybody's book too.
I'm going to buy it to support you and have it there for when we slow down a tick.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing their work because I need to add to my collection. But while we're talking about books, I just want to, since you're here, we have a celebrated author here. I mean, she's done some amazing things. I mean, she's received the Afro-American Historical Genealogical Society International Book Award. I mean, come on now. That ain't nothing to sneeze at. Let's just give Miss JC Moore her props where it's due, because I mean, you've done some things too. And one of the things that I'm just proud of and just so happy to have you here for is because she's written these two amazing children's books. Everybody, please, if you have children, please go out and get these books, because I bought them, and my 8-year-old son and my 6-month-old, we read them during story time, and they love these books. And we shared a moment before the podcast started. And I mean, it's a beautiful message within a message, especially with Am Crocodile. I was just telling JC before the podcast started is that, I've been going through some things recently, and I just happened to read over the story again, just so I was fresh for this discussion today. And the note to the reader at the end is what, I mean, like, I was just like, you got to know yourself. That was the message that I got. And you spoke about it a little bit today, just in talking about everything that you've been speaking of, is knowing who you are, knowing yourself, knowing oneself, because when you don't know who you are, you can be easily influenced by outside forces, whether they're negative or positive, but typically the negative forces is what usually grasp you if you don't know who you are. And I want to make sure that when I raise my boys, that I raise them to be strong Black men who know who they are, know their self-worth, know that they are powerful, that they are strong, that they are fierce. And that those two words that came across as soon as you ended it was, you are strong, you are fierce and strong. I was like, yes, I am. I am.
Yes,
I am fierce.
Yes,
I am strong. I am powerful. And then you said, stay focused on your goals and you will reach past your circumstances to achieve the excellence that is your birthright. And I was like, yes, I needed to hear that. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I needed to hear that. And I just want to bring my son back, because you was going to say some other stuff to him before we got started. And I wanted to bring him back on because this is Morgan, everybody.
Hi, Morgan. Hi again.
And we are just so delighted and blessed by your work. These two books for sure. I got to get the other stuff, but I wanted to start with those because I got the two little ones. And yeah, I just want to.
I love the story. This one, it was illustrated by Scott. And I always had a hard time pronouncing his last name. And he is an African artist, and he's still doing a lot of work. He doesn't do books generally. Mm-hmm. He does art.
Wow.
Art in the gallery.
Wow.
And I was very blessed to have met him and for him to have done this for me. And the artwork is
amazing.
Phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tamika, she's the one who did the layout. And she's an artist as well. She did the layout, and she's doing some work right now for Senator Warnock. Did I get his name correct this time? She's illustrating, it's like a children's version of his life.
Oh, nice.
So he's the author, I believe. I don't know if he has a ghost or not, but he's the author. And she did the illustrations, and it's excellent. Also, before I forget, not related to this, but my good friend Tanya Grant also did Kamala Harris, but that was through National Geographic. So just shout out to them. That's for children as well.
Okay.
Both of those are for children. But Scott did a phenomenal job.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Tamika laid it out. The reason I created this book was a friend of mine at the time. She and her son were in a park in Texas, when I lived in Texas, and there were alligators there. And they were talking about, they didn't realize the danger they were in.
Right.
I did research on alligators just because I wanted them to be afraid.
Oh.
I want you to be afraid. Do not go back there. They look like they're all slow and sleepy, and they can run and get you. So that was the start. But then I wanted to build it on the old African tale. I believe it's the chicken and the hawk or something like that. But it's an old African folk tale. And that's what I built it saying.
I love it.
Because the crocodile is bigger than the alligator, and the crocodile is African. Not all, but the one I wrote about. And what if it was taken from Africa like we were and brought to America?
Oh, wow. Wow.
Right? That's the story. So we, as people, taken from our land and brought there. Now you're told you're nothing but a puny alligator. You're nothing but a little small tiny thing. And even when you grow and you're big and you're fierce, your mind is still
thinking small.
That lie.
Right.
And so what happens? Well, when the parrot coming back from your homeland comes on the scene, will remind you of who you are. Sometimes you have to have something remind you of who you are. Wow. You see? And once you find out who you are, your enemy will then beg you for mercy. And whether or not you give it is up to you, but just be careful, because if they tricked you once, they might trick you again. So, for example, this scene, and Morgan read it so well, I would like him to read, if he will, where it says, "Don't hurt me, crocodile." Okay. See that towards the back? Morgan did an excellent job.
All right, Morgan, you're on now. This is for everybody out there in the land.
Here we go.
You got to read it with intention and confidence, okay?
Don't hurt me, Mr. Crocodile. Don't stop. Don't stop me, I beg you. Be kind to this old alligator. It is the right thing to do. I'll help you escape from the pen. Hunter, I will be coming for you, for your hide. And you need me, Mr. Crocodile, to get to on the other side. Escape. I will sit.
Hardhead.
Said Hardhead.
Said Hardhead with a newfound strength of pride. Your help will not need where I am, Crocodile.
All right.
Very good. Very good.
How about that? So, the story is, he's still, the alligator is still trying to trick him, saying, you need me. You need my help. And we're told that all the time as Black. Right. So we still need, some help from the outside. We need whatever. And don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-reparations or any of that.
Right.
I'm not saying that. But that's always the narrative to keep you engaged with things. Put it like that. And how can you escape if you're still engaged?
Yeah.
Things. Yeah. So you did an excellent job reading that. And I thank you so much for doing a wonderful job.
You were so excited, when I said that I was going to have you on. And he was like, Mom, can I sit in on your conversation? I would just want to tell her that, because I've never met an author that's wrote a real book before. I was like, okay, yeah.
Well, you're going to love the Light Bearer in the Darkness series when it comes out. It's for a little bit of an older child, but I think your mom can read it to you.
Yeah. Or
hopefully I'll get the audio book version out. You will like it because the main protagonist in book 1 is 7 and 8 years old.
Oh, wow. And he loves chapter books too. So
you'll really enjoy this. And he's a prince. He's a young prince.
Oh, nice.
And he's in a mythical city called Lebuta in West Africa, where Senegal would be. And he's taken, not as a slave, but as a kidnapped victim from his homeland. And it ends when he's on the boat going supposedly to another place. So I won't give you
spoil it.
Spoiler.
Come up with
I almost did. Started to get excited, but I think you'll like it. Some of the words might be, high for you, but that's okay. That's okay. You'll get the intent.
How do you come up with the ideas for these stories? Like they're amazing, like powerful and unique, and like I love Am Crocodile. It's informative too. It's not just a story, but there's good information about that both of these animals in this book as well too. Like
I wanted to put that in there and have a little bit of an activity, because sometimes with children we're telling them not to write in the books. So give them an opportunity, particularly the Could You Imagine book. I have
activities at the back.
But here, just to have some fun facts, just so that it's not just a story.
Right.
We're always learning, because whether we realize it or not, we're learning.
Yes.
Learning good things or bad things and behaviors or whatever. We're always learning, even if it doesn't say textbook.
Right. And they're sponges at this age too. So I mean, he recalls all kinds of stuff, and he was like, "Mom, I really like this part of the book. I like this story because I loved at the end when the crocodile starts talking, and it's almost as if you brought it home, because I won't tell the story, but you bring it home at the end, and I love that. I was like, oh my God, that was a nice little surprise at the end.
That is good. God is good. I have a wild imagination. My sister, who I write with sometimes, she says I basically have one story that I just tell in different ways. When I say, what about this? It's just say, that's the same story. I just tell it in a different way. It's like when I was telling you about Lady Doll, and as I was explaining to you, I said, you know what? That's also like barbecue.
Yeah.
But,
when did you start writing, or have you always been writing since you were young? Or
I think I always wrote when I was, I always wrote, but I think for a long time I didn't write where it was for others. Similar to what you said, you might write a poem, you're unhappy, or you're very happy, or different things like that. Stories for school, and I realized that some of the stories I would write today, I'm sure they would usher me off to some sort of therapy or strap me down and give me whatever drug.
Yeah.
Because they don't believe you could have an imagination, and it's not indicative of trouble at home or something. Just you have a wild mind.
Right.
So I would write some things that today would be considered horror.
Almost the way you was describing Lady Doll, it reminded me of like a Jordan Peele type story.
Yeah, it is actually. I'm not finished with him yet. He's going to go through some things, but the trick is, and I didn't structure it out. We were talking on our meeting today about using a structuring program. Do you use a structuring program?
I usually do a mind map, and then I use Scrapple whenever I actually, in the snowflake method, when I start going through or whatever they were teasing me because I went through this whole, I took up too much time on this program that you can't even get anymore. It's on my old eMac. What is it called?
My old Pro. It's called Power Structure.
Oh.
And because the Mac kept changing the operating systems and updating or whatever, they stopped supporting it. So then someone bought it and put it online. And so it wasn't as good because it couldn't export to Final Draft. It couldn't export to, the different programs you might use. And then they said that the program was in the Ukraine, and when the trouble started, he just shut it down.
Oh, man.
I was very disappointed because I'm certainly a person who likes to structure. So I found a similar program, and it's called Story Planner, something like that, in the app stores.
I have that. And it's got it's like a little triangle. Yes, I have that too. I use that too.
See, and it can export.
Yeah, and I'm actually using that one for my fourth book right now. That is
Do you have a title or a working title?
The working title is Love Dazzles in Sapphire.
Excellent.
So I got to get back to it, but since having a baby is gonna, kind of,
Sure.
I have not had the time really, but I'm already 8 or 9 chapters in, and it's a period piece, and it's taking place in the 70s, right as the Vietnam War has ended. Okay. And it's actually the love story of the parents of one of my previous characters from Perfect Chemistry. Mm-hmm. So it's their love. It's the love interest from Perfect Chemistry, his parents' love story. Nice. And I'm talking about, the father deals with a little bit of like PTSD from which they didn't, that they really didn't have a name for it back then, I don't think. Dealing with the after effects of coming back from the war and, not being received well, in terms of being a Black man coming back from the war. You fought for your country, and now you coming back into a crazy, like racism and everything.
And they came back with Agent Orange, and they didn't admit to that. And they came back because they put them on those drugs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now you're a criminal. Yeah. All those other things. So yes, that's a great backdrop.
Yeah, and I'm using they meet in college. I'm writing about Howard, so they're going to school at Howard, mm-hmm. And I'm dealing with some mental illness type stuff, like some drama. I mean, not drama, but and I want to say in the Black family at times, how your weight can be and get called out as an issue at times.
Yes.
I'm dealing with that in here. I'm dealing with just a lot of different things. I feel like that are side stories to their
subplots, like a subplot.
Yeah, subplots to their story, but it's things that I really think that's important to talk about, because it gives it an opportunity and gives it light to be able to and life to breathe, to be able to talk about it, and I'm really excited.
It sounds great though. And I think that it's important because, there's still wars going on and, mm-hmm. and still coming back mm-hmm. with stress syndromes. Mm-hmm. And as we were talking earlier in this session about Dr. Joy's work on post-traumatic slave syndrome. Mm-hmm. So we always have to say any post-traumatic stress syndrome is on top of our slave syndrome.
Right.
And then the regular racism that's going on that no one seems to anymore.
And no one seems to want to acknowledge it when it comes to us,
Exactly.
Too. And I'm really excited. I will say,
great though.
Thank you.
Good.
One of the things that I'm really proud of, like I always love when I have like a connection to my stories. Mm-hmm. And this particular one, okay. So I don't know if you remember the song "Love" by Donny Hathaway.
Sing a little bit.
Oh, I can't sing it, but I can play it. But so I'll play a little bit of it because I don't know. I have a whole playlist that I made for. I do it for each one of my books, but I did it for this one for sure. And it's nothing but like songs from back from the 60s, the 70s, and some 50s stuff. And so I found love, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this song. And it is let me play it. Hold on. Let me get it for you. Where is it? But anyway, I started it. I wrote to that song, and I just love when I have like these moments when I fall in love with the characters, like I literally could see them falling in love. And it just, I literally bawled crying right in it. I mean, right in that part. How does it go? I feel like I'm not finding the right song. It's called Love though. But anyway, it goes. I don't want to.
Go ahead.
I don't want to mess up the song because you know
Don't mess it up.
Look at you. Love, love, love. Got the best of me. Oh, you got me on my come on, I can't sing. Love, love, love. Something, I can't think of the words of the name.
That's okay, because you know we never know the words. So that sounds good to me.
Oh,
I have a very beautiful voice.
Now, if I play it, I know it, but I can't think of it. Oh my God.
Let me tell you something. You have a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
Voice.
Thank you.
And I have not yet met anybody who look like me of either gender who knows the words to anything.
Oh my God.
Y'all don't know the words.
Oh my gosh. I love that song.
That is too funny. But I love it. There's another woman who joins us on Sundays. She writes romance, or it's romance. I would categorize as such. And she also uses songs. So it's interesting. I wonder if it's related to the romance and songs kind of go hand in hand.
It does. Like when I did the Violet Rose, I have nothing but a full playlist of Prince songs that I did for that one. And then I also created music because I felt like, okay, well, the guy, the main character, the guy is a musician. And I'm talking about him producing, an album, the entire length of the book. He should have music. So I created music to go along with it. So I have a companion CD of music or tracks that I created to go along with that book.
That is excellent.
Yeah.
That is excellent. I only knew one other person who did that for children's, and they had a companion CD.
Yeah, and I was just like,
whatever it was.
And then I did, and then I was like, after I did, I was like, oh, well, the Purple Charm experience is an experience. Let me do a whole bunch of tracks for that, and I have tracks for the experience, just for Purple.
I've heard it. You played at the beginning. Yeah, I've heard it. And see, that's what I'm saying is that let me just back up and say something that's probably not acceptable to some people. But when you look at people of color, particularly, the darker melanated people, there's so much creativity. There's so much just off the chart wisdom.
Yeah.
That when you now want to sell it or give it to someone who's less than that, they can't handle it. And so they're going to make it. It's kind of like, do you give your baby, I'm trying to think of something, like a big piece of fish with the bones. The baby can't handle that.
Right.
So be careful, biblically they say don't cast your pearls before swine, right? If you will. Be careful of what we take it as though that they are the ones who are determining what's great.
Right.
As opposed to they can't handle what's great.
Right.
They can't handle the depth of your diversity and that you are writing, not just a story, but music and lyrics and all this other stuff. And they're saying, well, can't you do a formula? Look at the difference there. Yeah. Look at the vastness of what you can do, what you're able to do, what you are doing. As to the narrow, they're just saying we could only handle this. So when you look at your pyramids, Heru and Marquette, or the Sphinxes, they call it back there. Right? Where did you see that? Where does that exist? Is that in England?
No.
Is that in Ireland?
No.
Is that in France or Italy?
No.
Okay, then. Yeah. Before I forget, I have to give a shout out to Papa, Dr. Audie Williams. He wrote a book, and I did a podcast that I have not released. That's on me because I made an error. But the book is unbelievable. That's the name of it. The Life Journey of Art Williams, baseball's first Black national umpire.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And I have the book. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to put my hands on it very quickly, but the book is unbelievable.
I'm gonna have to get that. I'm gonna get.
I really want people to pay attention to that. And I got a message from Maria that they are going to be having events, and I wanted to share them with your audience in case they're not able to do it, at the African American Culture of Long Beach. That's in California.
California.
It's the other side, but I don't know how far your audience reaches. So please reach out to Art Williams, and the upcoming event is going to be at the African American Cultural Center of Long Beach. So that's July 21st, 5 to 8 p.m.
I could put that in the show notes as well, so that people can get a hold of that. That's
exactly
awesome.
So I will send that to you.
Thank you.
So this is I think this is the way that we get our work out there, sharing, selflessly across our own work and others' work, to get it out there and to get our own synergy, because we have enough.
I agree.
Who are interested in our work as it is.
I completely agree, because
and Morgan was a delight. That was such an unexpected boost. To help me get back to doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
The picture book, it tested well with little kids. They love that. I don't even know where the artist is. It was his brother who I met on the street in Houston. I saw him a young brother waiting for the bus, and he had one of those portfolio, those big black things. And so I pull over because I'm not always as shy as I should be. Hey, are you an artist? I need someone to illustrate my books. And so that's how I met Tony, and he did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, he did. He really did. Hopefully one day I have a story I started that was based on Morgan and two of my other cousins' children, that I started when Morgan was a baby, because they were all around the same age. And they were born in 2012 and 13. And so I started writing this little children's story way back then. And I always wondered if I could find someone to illustrate. When Morgan is drawing now, he draws. And I think I'm going to allow him to do the illustration for that book when I get a chance and get it finished, because, one of the things that I love about me being passionate about writing and him seeing me write is that he now has started doing he'll do his own little books. I went in his room one day, and we buy him tons of like notebooks and stuff for him to draw. But he had created his own comic book and started drawing and writing out the story. And story by Morgan Fleming, illustrated by Morgan Fleming.
That's right.
I love that, not only is he seeing other authors, seeing me as an author, but seeing other authors like you. And he has seen me interview Lynn Hyde and another romance author that I interviewed a couple years ago, and a poet that I interviewed a couple years ago, and seeing people of color and knowing that he can do this too.
He's empowered.
He's like, Mom, can you take a look at my book? And I love that. And I just appreciate you, embracing him when he came on, because he was really excited to be.
I was excited.
And I'm telling you, we are just delighted with these books. And like, if it wouldn't be too much for me to say, I just want to say I love you and I thank you, because, you know, it means the world to me to connect with other authors, because especially ones that look like me. And, you know, I never thought that I would have this opportunity to, you know, I would write all my, you know, just write in journals, constantly writing in journals, but I never would have thought that I would be in a place where I could self-publish my own stuff and then go so far as to meet other authors. You're in Atlanta, Lynn is out in California,
right.
You know, I've met the other authors that I've connected with. One is in Pennsylvania, the other one's in Delaware, and then you're all over the place. I've talked to Tia, like, it's just amazing
it's amazing what's happened with the horrors of the pandemic, our clawing to continue to operate and to elevate. We all learned Zoom and Teams and these other things that allowed us to say, hey, we're no longer just dealing with wherever we are locally.
Right.
And expanded. I mean, when I do my monthly meetings, sometimes I have people in England.
Yeah.
Africa.
Awesome.
And they'll chime in. Now, usually they don't come back because they have to stay up, you know, it's 2 a.m. or something crazy like that. But just the fact that they have come.
Right.
Even the once.
Right.
Made a difference on me and made a change in how I think about us.
Right.
But they're telling me not what I could read in the London Times, what's really going on. You know, just like what's going on in Baltimore, you could tell me what's really going on, not just what I'm reading. And it makes a huge difference how we are coming together and how we are supporting. But I want to backtrack and talk about Morgan just one more second.
Yeah. That
you are empowering him to know that who says you have to be 20 to write a book or whatever age? Who says that you have to be whatever age to illustrate a book? Who said that? So if they'll say you have to be 20 to become a concert pianist, well, what about their Mozart? Or their Beethoven? Who says that? So we're constantly, you know, we don't even know it, that we are forcing people to be dumbed down, if I might steal that phrase. Right. Because they're saying, you can't possibly do that. See, so I can't, you know, like I had a friend, she had me, this was years and years ago. She had me watching her kids and little Kiki, was it Kiki? Yeah, Kiki, little Kiki, they bought him a whole little new bedroom suit. It looked like a racing car and all that. So they were gone. And so I had Kiki hanging up his clothes. So when she came back, she said, Kiki's hanging up his clothes. I didn't know he could do that. I said, I couldn't. You ain't got to be able to talk to hang up your clothes.
That's right.
You do everything else. So sometimes we say you can't do it. And so we kind of conform to, oh, I'm not supposed to be able to publish my book. I can't copyright my book. I can't copyright my song. My music. I can't write a soundtrack to go along with it. I can't write my own screenplay to go along with my book. I have to wait for Hollywood to give it an amen.
Nope.
You see, so that system has been in place for music, for television, for movies, and every other aspect of our existence. That's just entertainment. That we forget that you don't have to. Do you have to play for the Knicks or the Nets? Can it be something else? Right. Let's imagine, for Morgan's sake, let's imagine.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
And I love you.
I appreciate this conversation. You guys, as we wrap up, I just want to thank you again for coming on. Your words of wisdom have, just completely blessed this audience and this podcast. It's been amazing just to talk to you. I want to, continue to connect with you because I just feel like there's so much I can learn and grow, through having continued conversations and relationship with you.
And likewise.
And I just think that, we can grow as a, society if more of us thought and supported, authors like us because there's just so much that we have to offer, you know, and I just thank you for sharing just a little bit of your time and your day with us, and, you know, speaking with my baby, because, you know, it's just,
Morgan's the bomb.
yeah,
And I
it's amazing.
appreciate the opportunity to
Yeah.
come on your show. It's a beautiful
Absolutely.
show. And
Thank
to
you.
share with you and to learn more about you and how you came to be where you are. It's wonderful. The books are great.
Thank
And
you.
you know, Purple Rain, Purple Rain.
Yes. Now, guys, before we go, I just want JC, please share your information with the audience so they can pick up your books and where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Yes, you can find me online, on Twitter, as well as Instagram, JC Moore Author. You can also on my own, which is jcmoore.net. And the publishing company is kenpublishers.com. My books are available on Amazon, and my podcast is available on Apple. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, guys,
Thank you for allowing me to plug all of my friends and my other writers that are out there doing it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, guys.
So now you have to come on my show.
Absolutely. I'm ready. You just let me know. Just let me know. I'm coming.
All right.
Guys, you'll be able to find this episode. It'll be dropping soon. You can find it on all of the streaming platforms when it's released, as well as be able to watch the video on YouTube. So stay tuned. I will be releasing this soon. And I thank you guys for joining us for the Ask the Author segment of the podcast. This has been amazing. And as always, I'll be dropping another episode soon. Stay tuned. And I love you for joining me. Thank you again. Peace.
Peace.